Well, boys and girls, it's that time again. You say, what time? It's time for Standing in the Gaps podcast. And we're really excited about this episode. It's titled Boy, Has It Been a Year? And there's many meanings to that. So it's all encompassing. We're going to talk about Standing in the Gaps year because we have a lot of loyal listeners and we have some new listeners so you can understand what's been going on behind the scenes, so to say. We're going to go over some of our favorite episodes that you can, again, if you haven't heard it, you're going to want to click into the video section on YouTube, or if you're on Spotify or Apple, whatever, any of those platforms, you can scroll back and you're going to want to watch those episodes because all of them were excellent, but the ones we highlight are definitely stand out amongst excellent shows. And then we'll end with some changes. You know, what's going to be the new year. We're going to make some changes and we're excited where we're going, and we're just going to have a great show. We'll laugh for sure. I have no doubt about that. You know, kind of recapping where we began and where we are today. So I'll turn it over to the man and then we'll get going. Go ahead, Aaron.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm very excited about this episode. Me and Richie were talking about how we wanted to end this year. And we're going to just share some of the amazing things, some life-changing things that has happened. And I'm very excited. We just want to do just a few housekeeping notes. We'll talk about more as we go along and we talk about the changes for the year. Just hit that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up if you like this. And please throw a comment. We really do want to create a community where we're having dialogue, talking to each other. And just hit that subscribe button so you can. And also, if you want to be updated on new videos when they drop, hit that bell icon. It'll allow you to be notified when we put out new episodes. Yeah, so check out our merch store, check out our website. We got some cool t-shirts. Can't even speak today. Blah, 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 blah. We have some cool t-shirts and some mugs, some paint, bunch of other stuff. We can buy our merch. And also check out our websites where we have places where you can connect, where you can find help and stuff like that. And so this episode is not really sponsored. We pray that it is sponsored by you. And so check out our GoFundMe page, and we'll talk about more about that also later in this episode. Back to you, Richie.
Okay. Thank you, Aaron. Yeah. So boy, has it been a year. You know, I'm sure everybody has experienced some level of disruption this year. And the year always holds a new chapter in our lives. Certainly on the geopolitical scale, it's been quite a year, but we've talked about that. I mean, you could already see the changes that are coming as a result of, if some of you haven't seen some of our deep dives, and Aaron will talk about that in a few minutes, but we have some episodes that, we've gone over the latest news that's impacting the world. It's America and the world, and cover both. And so it's just very interesting times we live in, as everybody says. But, boy, it's been a year for Standing in the Gaps. I mean, the genesis of this was that, I believe, God really wanted me to do a podcast that was a voice, not an echo. And I still stand by that. I have not found a political, social, economic podcast like ours. I mean, most of the political podcasts that gain, and I don't put any of them down. I used to be an avid Rush fan, but most of them are the same echo chambers. I mean, Tucker Carlson's huge because he's not an echo chamber. Joe Rogan is huge because he's not an echo chamber. Hopefully, what's his name? Russell Brand will start his own podcast because I don't think he'll be an echo chamber either, So we're definitely not an echo chamber. But, the thing about not being an echo chamber is a lot of times you're pioneering stuff. And, so anyway, the genesis of what happened was, I reached out to my buddy Aaron here and said, listen, thinking about doing a podcast. I need to, I'm not very technical. I need a co-host. It's not something that I'm going to do by myself. It's more like, somebody. And and the thing is, he did not say anything to me. He prayed to God that God would, and maybe he'll, maybe I shouldn't share his stuff. But let me turn it over to you, Aaron. You share your side, and then I'll come back on this. Go ahead.
Yeah, Richie, he reached out to me and said, "Hey, thinking about starting a podcast. Do you know any good hosts? I want to do it with somebody." And I'm like, "No, I don't really know any." And then I was like, "I should do it. I should do it." And then I'm like, "Okay, but let me just step back and see what happens." And I prayed, and then Richie comes to me and goes, "I seeked God's face on this, and I think you're supposed to fill in as co-host, and you're supposed to do this." And I'm like, "Okay, let's do it." And actually, it was a year. No, I think because it was in December where we started planning this and setting it up, and we ended up launching first week in January. And boy, has it been a fun ride. Our first episode, we actually sat down and talked, and we were like, "What should our first episode be?" And I'm like, "Our first episode should be us talking about the vision, about the podcast, and that's pretty much it. That's all we're gonna really have for the first episode." And then some idiot decided to do something very inappropriate in the Senate, and that birthed the episode "Staying on the Hall Carpet." And we're like, we want to do an episode, but we can't not talk about this. This is like where we want to go. This is our vision.
It was
Is
our
to
pilot,
share,
right? It was our pilot.
yeah, our pilot, yeah. And and the whole thing is we want to share what people weren't sharing, that people were offended with it, but didn't want to really push it, but we had to. And yeah, that ended up going crazy. Hold on, give me a second. I'm gonna go to, actually, we started out first just doing audio, and I'm not quite sure what the numbers are on that, but we launched Stay on the Hall Carpet, and yeah, that was quite an experience. And if you can see the graphic, it has this brown. Oh, I'm sorry if you're drinking coffee while listening to this, but it looks like somebody spilled a bunch of coffee all over the floor. And we had to share that. But that was our vision, is to share the things that nobody wanted to share, to bring insights, biblical insight, to things that might not be biblical, and to really shake up the people and tell people to wake up. Also, another big thing was talking about the homeless. And that was always something that was on our heart and still is.
I'm personally proud of that episode because it goes against a religious mindset. I mean, Jesus Christ never came to this earth. You could challenge me on this, you believers out there, but you're going to be wrong because it's a historical fact. He never came to start a religion called Christianity. He came and when he left, they called it the way because he's the way, the truth, and life. So when I realized that God gave me the title, some people say, how can a holy God give it? Excuse me, have you read the Bible? It's like holiness is not you know, holiness is outside of this realm, first. Anybody who thinks they can make themselves holy in this realm, I'm sorry, you are wrong. There's no great holiness. They call the Pope the great holiness. I don't want to pick on any denomination, so Catholics forgive me. That's what I grew up with. That's my frame of reference. But we're called holy because he's holy. So it's what inside of us that makes us holy. It's the inside of us. Am I excusing sin? No, I'm not. But I guarantee you that title was not inspired for me. I would, I was like, wow, that's great. Staying on the. So you'll figure it out when you listen to the episode. It is controversial, but I'm proud of that first episode. I thought the pilot was, and we had great feedback. We had great feedback. People said we were natural with great interchange. I'm trying to remember some of the comments, and they really enjoyed and they said that we weren't afraid to voice our perspective on stuff. So that's, again, we want to be a voice, not an echo. So the interesting thing is I want to read something on standing in the gap. Standing in the gap is a concept that refers to a number of things, including the idea of standing between those who are vulnerable and those who are powerful. And, Aaron talked about the homeless, and you could see that, one of my favorite songs is Another Day in Paradise by Phil Collins. It talks about a person that has the resources. So that's the powerful. Powerful doesn't necessarily mean a negative tone, but there's something that's standing between those two. And we could, we're trying to motivate people to think beyond their own lives and help that person. Don't be that person that walks past that woman crying. I know you get busy, got to be careful, especially if you're a female. And I understand all the news and stuff out there, but it's clearly evident the person truly homeless and needs help. Just, make their day. And, I don't want to steal from the episode, but I remember us talking about this thing. Now listen to this. This can include advocating for those who are suffering, standing up against those who use power in oppressive ways, and using resources to help others. Dude, is that a great overview of what our show is all about? Nails it. Nailed it. Nailed it. This is awesome. So anyway, I thought that was really cool. You know, we look at where we were, Aaron and I, and where we went through some changes throughout this year, and we're fine tuning certain things, and it's just a great ride. One of my favorite episodes, Aaron, was "What's Love Got to Do with It." That was a great episode. I mean, that's solid gold. It really is. If those of you want to go listen to that, that's a great one. Where we really talked about God's love versus man, human love, and got into a whole bunch of funny trails, which was all good. It was all part of the show, and that's another one I was proud of. What were your thoughts on that one, Alan?
Yeah, it definitely woke me up. Some of the bunny trails I wasn't expecting us to go on, but I really liked how it's even in people's decisions in life, the choices that they make, the lifestyle that they want to live. That episode really said, hey, whatever you choose, God still loves you. And Richie left out the last part of that title. So it's what's love got to do with it? Question mark. Everything. And that's really what it comes down to, is that God loves everybody, regardless of what's going on in their life. Is there things that we do that God's not too happy with? Of course. Of course. But it would never stop God from loving you. And that actually opened up, because I know we talk about, the LGBT community. We don't fully endorse and agree with that lifestyle, but the thing is, God still loves you. And also, we talk about the transgender kind of community there. And when we ended up doing research afterwards, before and after, and found some organizations that help young people that have gone through these changes and regret their choice, and God really stepping in and healing people, and just hearing the stories of people set free absolutely wrecked me afterwards. Those organizations are listed on our websites. And yeah, it really did shake me in that episode. I think that was maybe our fifth. No, that was our 26th episode.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, another episode that was good was the Resurrection of America, where we had Sandy Lynn Garmeyer, and she's a prophetess that God raised up, and she gave this word about America and America's need to repent. And that was really impactful too. We're actually going to have Sandy back on in the near future in that 2025. And so I'm really looking forward to that.
yeah. Yeah. It's, I pulled up some of the reviews on Apple and I want to read some of them. There's just a few here, but it really talks about our show. And again, I think some of these listeners are new. So why we ask you to spread the word is, we do all our stuff ourselves. It's all organic right now because our resources are limited because we're bootstrapping. Those of you not familiar with bootstrapping means that we're doing it all on our own. So we're not this big
Mhm.
conglomerate, so
But just like the kid that brought the 5 loaves and 2 fishes, that's what we are here right now. We are just saying, okay, this is the vision that God gave us. This is the gear that we have. It's not much, but God moved. And it's just us being persistent in the vision that God had us for the show, and just saying, here's what we got, Lord. Breathe on it. If it touches one heart, then it's worth it. But we believe that God has done a lot in people's hearts and will continue to do that. Go ahead and share those reviews.
yes, the very first one we had was all the way back in January. It said, it is refreshing to hear about the hard things that people don't want to discuss from a biblical perspective. Looking forward to hearing more. And the next one was the chemistry between speakers is evident. The topic's so relevant and real life examples. These guys are in the game right now. No one pontificating or fake news. What a breath of fresh air. Can't wait to listen to the next episode. And then finally, just one more. Refreshing that you guys talk about things that you think are important. And, I want to address that. If you, our listeners, think something is important, reach out to us, whether that's email or a website or a comment, on the format that you're listening to, comment, and we'll look into that. If you know of somebody that wants to be a guest, that would be a good guest, let us know. So anyway, refreshing that you guys talk about things that you think are important, that you don't steer to safe topics is a badly needed stance. They actually thanked us. He said, thank you. And see, that's the kind of thing I hold to. Is, I've always said, if if I just help one person to think differently, to look beyond themselves, then that's great, because it's that's rippling effect, kind of paying it forward, some people say. But we look at 9/11. I think one of our shows might have trying to remember which one where I addressed 9/11. Probably as recently since the anniversary. But I referenced, the fact that, with 9/11, the country was really polarized and everybody was pro-America and understanding. The church attendance went up and, it was focused. And some people look at the negative and say, yeah, but I know that changed some people's lives. I mean, COVID, a lot of negative, and we can get into that, and this is where I want to be a voice rather than an echo. I could jump on a whole bunch of stuff. But what I'm going to say is some people actually got blessed during that time. They got to be with their families. It stretched them. So something good always comes out of something. And I'm not discounting any of the bad. So please don't comment. I lost my wife to cancer as a result of what was going on during that time period. And so, I understand what loss is all about. But, what I look at is, on the same hand, during that time, I was able to travel because nobody was traveling. Everybody was afraid. For those of us who weren't afraid, it was a great time, So anyway, I just want to reemphasize on this episode that you're important to us. So please give us a comment, let us know. And I'm trying to, there was a one episode which didn't get a lot of views. Or maybe it got a lot on the other platforms. I really only focus on YouTube, but it's an important episode to mention because of the prophetic. And those of you not familiar with that term, what that means is that it's a signpost pointing to Jesus. It's something that says, okay, God's doing something. It's doing something in advance or without any previous head knowledge, and it lines up. Some people call it synchronicity. I'm not afraid of that term. It's all good. So for those of you not familiar with prophetic, you won't prefer synchronicity. But I was amazed, Aaron. I don't know if you were, but I was amazed at the synchronicity of that. And that was the gold standard. I really expected that was one of the, say to me, hey, Richie, what was the most surprising episode? That episode right there. Because I expected a lot of legs. Because here's the thing that's wild, is we talked about countries going back to the gold standard. The day we recorded it, not the day we released it, but the day we recorded it, Zimbabwe went to the gold standard. Think about it. First nation to do it. And I know through personal knowledge that there are other nations that are going to do it. You say, Richie, who are you? I'm just telling you, personal knowledge. I've been around some certain tables that I was invited to, and I'm not, it was definitely God doing that. But I got some insight that there are a lot of nations that are going to go back to the gold standard. A lot of nations don't want America's dollar to deplete. Look at what Trump said. I see. That's why we need him, because if it was Kamala or anybody else, the dollar would be gone. And look at what's happened. Did you see what he said on that, Aaron? Did you happen to catch that? What he said about the dollar? He goes, "Go ahead and try." He said, "Try. We will." I'm paraphrasing, but basically he said, "You're not doing any kind of business with us. Period. Zero. You want to, mess with it? Goodbye. We don't want anything to do with you." I was like, man, that's the kind of statement that you need to make these leaders think twice about what they're trying to do. He said, "Go ahead, Bricks, go, or whoever's doing this, go ahead. It's okay." Because he knows the fact. What he has insight to is the manipulation of, and I won't point at any organizations, but he knows the manipulation of money. He understands it. Okay. And he understands the game that they play. And he's not going to play that game anymore. He understands America has awesome resources, and we just need to get rid of the regulation to tap into it. Yo, dude, I'm glad we don't live in Canada. You know what goes on in Canada? Canada, they're not allowing drilling. They don't allow drilling. They want no more drilling in the country at all. But you know what? God always comes up with stuff. And there's a company out there that's actually making fuel out of waste wood. Go ahead. Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, they don't want to drill, but the thing is, it's okay. They're going to buy the oil from the USA. They're the ones that are going to make America great again. Thank you, Canada. Thank you. Maybe someday you'll be the 51st state.
That's
Oops.
that's a
Oops.
good point. I didn't even think of that. That's a great point. They again have insight on some stuff. And I know that in our ground, okay, I'm not going to mention the state, but in our ground is more than enough. Like if China threatens not to send us, there's more than enough. And this is just one state that I know. And it doesn't include what's, because this particular state has national parks next to where these areas are. So I can only imagine if the area I'm looking at is, let's say, at the most 12 square miles, and it butts up against a 50-mile national forest, dude, how if that, what? Maybe there's not, but the odds are, like, how could it just be limited? My point, Aaron, is to that 12 miles. So what I know about what's in the ground there, we have nothing to be concerned about. Because I know the person that does know about it eventually wants to get a hold of Trump and tell him about it, because he believes Trump will tap it. And absolutely, I see that happening. So, it's interesting because we've got to recognize that standing in the gap, is not going anywhere without you. But we don't rely on you. What we do rely on is your help in spreading the word, spreading the news about how different we are, and not being afraid to have a guest. You may be somebody that doesn't think. I actually want somebody that doesn't think like us. I don't need to be in this bubble. I want free thinking. You know what I'm saying? Free thinking, critical thinking, whatever you call it. As long as you're thinking for yourself and you're not afraid to be open to somebody saying to you, hey, you should go research that to make sure. I'm not perfect, so some of the stuff I may share, but I pretty much try to stay within the realm of confirmable research that's been done in actual, not the history. This again, why we need to keep talking and keep doing this show. Maybe we'll do a show featuring this, but there's this, I'm not sure if it's a state or a country that has pulled all the books previous to 2005 out of their libraries because it's not inclusive. The language, they're going to redo the books and make it more inclusive. Are you serious? Like, that's never sent. Maybe because, well, no, I am going to go there. Hey, dude, I'm fat, Aaron. You know that, right? Right?
Yeah, me too.
It does not offend me that a man with a watch on or an outfit is not fat like me. I don't sit there and say, hey, I wish somebody like me, or even as a child, I wasn't saying, oh, I wish there was somebody like me, which was small, blonde hair, blue eyes. I mean, most of the just at that time were, were models with black hair, and I never got hung up on that. I don't mean to put anybody down, but I don't get that. That's one of those like movements that has an undertoning of, are you serious? You got to be kidding. And then you take somebody that's the bastion of that, and this is the problem there. You've got Donald Trump's wife who inspires people that have English as their second language. They can say, oh, look at that. That's a first lady. And no one points that out. They made fun of her. That, oh, that's awesome. Now I see somebody like myself, instead of saying that inspires foreigners that have come to this country legally, you know, to become first lady or president of the United States. Why didn't anybody ever mention that? So it's just interesting. We've got, programs like this make a difference because we get people to think beyond themselves and really to stand in the gap to make a difference. And I hope we've done that to our listeners this year. Those loyal listeners, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you times 1,000. We appreciate you. It's why we do what we do. And we're just looking forward to a great 2025. Wow, it's upon us. So, Aaron, why don't you at this point talk about some of the changes that are coming on the horizon to Standing the Gap? Unless you have another episode you wanted to go on.
Yeah, I want to just quickly throw out some more episodes real quick, as we had some amazing guests, like big time. We had the $1 billion prayer with Chris Masson, where he talked about businesses and really, actually, we aired his thing twice. And on here, the first one got 90 views. And so very excited about that episode. He talked about business. He talked about how God wanted to step in to your business, step into every aspect of your life, and actually really bring the glory of God to your business. And the crazy thing about God's glory is if God's glory is there, it has to prosper. There's no other way. There's no other way. If his glory is there, it's going to prosper. And he's seen a lot of businesses that exploded in sales.
I'm glad you mentioned that because that one I forgot. I was going to mention one. So here's the thing. I keep in contact with Chris because I'm one of his clients. And the thing about Chris is he knows how to pray specific prayers. And some of the prayers he's prayed for me have gotten results. And the thing is that he's up to $907 million in revenue from his $1 billion drops. So that's the increase that he has seen getting involved in a company's life, whether it's an independent business owner or a company, and the increase in revenue so far. He's brought in $907 million. And he's not selfish because I asked him, I said, I hope you got 1% of that. He laughed. I said, you should be getting one. These should be getting back to you, giving you at least 1%. That's not why he does it. He's a true servant of God. Obviously he provides for his family through it, but I'm a numbers guy, and I'm like, wow, sales reps get 1 to 10%. So anyway, but that was a great episode. Thank you, and what did you mention? Go ahead.
Yeah, we also have Truth and Justice with Greg Allen Martin and a horse. And that one, I gotta admit, like when we got the guest invite for that one, I was like shaking. And this was our first celebrity interview with the movie star. And it was absolutely an amazing time. But this is also why we need better equipment. It took 2 takes to do that one because the first one was garbage. Means that the conversation was garbage. The conversations were amazing, but we had severe technical problems on that one. But Greg Allen talked about his TV show called Shadrach that was aired on Great American Purefoot, if I remember. And so that was a very good episode. I enjoyed that one. And also I want to talk about some of the lives that are changed. We have a no help but Jesus. And that was Stacy Heat. And Stacy Heat had this childhood and the beginning part of her adulthood where she wasn't going after Jesus. And it was a life of abuse, of hurts, of struggles. And then one day Jesus stepped in. And that episode talks a lot about women getting abused by their boyfriends or husbands or whatever and being in an abusive relationship. And she's now out of those abusive relationships, but she really prays and cries out for healing for ladies that were in that situation. Do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, what I want to add is any of you listeners that know somebody that has trauma in their lives, with domestic abuse, whatever type, parents to children or spouse, definitely have them listen to that program because it'll help them. We have resources on our website as well that you can go to. But she does speak, so if you want her to come to your church via Zoom or whatever, or she's close enough she can travel to you. I forgot where she lived, but I think it's on the West Coast. But you can reach out to her. She has ministry. You'll definitely be glad you did. Definitely impactful for sure.
Yeah. And then the last one I want to talk about, there's so many good ones, was Out of the Darkness and Into the Light. This one, it really does connect with what's love got to do with it. It was Lakeisha Atchison, and she was in a
10 year,
lesbian marriage
10 years.
and for 10 years, yeah. And she got her and her wife got an encounter with Jesus and got convicted and said, "Hey, we can't be in this relationship. We have to get out of it." And now both of them are no longer in that community. They really felt like Jesus was calling them into something greater, and both of them are reaching people for Jesus. And so that was a very good episode also. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing that stuck out with me, I'm glad we covered the episodes I really wanted to cover. So this is awesome, Barry. The thing that really stuck out me about that is, you know, they went to a loving church before Jesus revealed what he did to them. See, it says in my book that he draws all men into salvation. And there's so many people out there that play the Holy Spirit and go beyond. And now I'm not questioning their intentions, believe me. I get it. Zealots, stuff like that. I understand. I'm not putting them down, but there's a place for both, is what I'm saying. The guy or gal who's led to be on the street corner, yeah, I don't agree with their message at all. You and I can have a conversation on that. But you know what? If God's inspiring them to be out there, let them be out there. You know what I'm saying? That's what America's about, is freedom. That's what standing in the gaps is all about. And so, but what stuck out to me is that they were in this relationship and God's hand was in their life even before they stepped out of their relationship. Now, were they living a fruit-bearing life? And what I look, I have to refer to the Bible for that. It says the fruit of the Spirit is peace, love, joy. No, they probably had a lot of conflicts because there's no fruit of the Spirit in something that God loves us enough to convict us. And eventually they came out of the lifestyle. So that's just an example of letting God be God. There's many different ways many different paths that lead to, they misinterpret that narrow path Bible, but I'm going to go down that one trail. But there's many ways that lead to revelation. If somebody truly wants and desires to know the true living God, he won't disappoint. He won't not answer that question, that prayer. He won't. Most dangerous prayer you could ever pray. And those of you who haven't prayed this is God who created the universe. Show me who the real God is. That's it. Just simple. That's it. It'll happen. When? That's between them and God. It's when is a question, a variable, but you're talking about eternal and temporal realm. Will they benefit knowing Jesus sooner? Absolutely. I'm not questioning that. But it's all good because God allows us free will to make our own choices. God is in control of the eternal realm when you and I make choices down in this realm. And he'll divinely intervene. He will. He'll divinely intervene. I mean, George Washington's jacket is proof of that. I mean, you could go into the Smithsonian and see that George Washington's jacket is riddled with bullet holes. How the heck did that happen? Same way that, somebody's ear got clipped. Same thing. Different people, different set of circumstances. But you know what? God is God. And we'll let God be God. And you and I will just grace for each other. That's it. Grace and more grace is what we look forward to. So yeah, thank you for pointing that out, Howard. So why don't you go ahead and let's talk about, it's kind of future cast. And I think this will be a good segment. Go ahead.
Yeah, we do have a few changes that we ended up implementing early because I stumbled across some new technology that's helping us out. But what we see is 2025 happening is some of you that are listening don't believe in God, and that's okay. We still share what God's been telling us. We share the news, and we bring forth that view image. Our big thing is we want to bridge divides. We want to stand in the middle and say, here, look at this view, look at this way. The thing is, you can still go and look at it whatever way you want to, but we want to get people to see it in the realm of a biblical view. And so we have a lot of videos that are going to be coming out in 2025, but they're going to be in 3 different categories. Okay. So when you hear me and Richie, that is going to be standing in the gap live. So it's not that it's live, it's actually us on the meeting together and talking and bringing on guests. And then there's going to be Standing in the Gap News Deep Dive. And what Deep Dive is going to do is it's going to bring in news topics that are happening right there and then. It's not scheduled. It's as things are happening. And we have technology where we can bring those out fast in a very clean. That's why when some of you listen to some of the new stuff, you hear voices that aren't ours. I just want give full transparency. That is an AI program called Notebook LM by Google. And they have the ability to take articles and to turn them into podcasts. And so we're utilizing that to bring forth these quick news because I live in Europe. Richie lives in Asia. And our time zones are messed up and we don't always have time to meet together to bring forth these quick topics. And if you see a lot of videos like that, that's what that is. Really excited about that because I'm having a lot of fun making those. And then I don't know when this is going to start necessarily. I'm going to be bringing about 2 years ago, I started a YouTube show on my personal channel called Pray in the News. And I'm really feeling from God that it is time to do that. and everybody's welcome to listen to it, but that one will be more faith-based. We are going to take the news topics that we talk about on Deep Dive, and we're going to talk about those things, and we're going to pray over those things on the recording. And sometimes it might be just me. Sometimes it might be me and Richie. Sometimes it might be me and my wife. I know that she said that she wants to be on a few of them. And so those are going to be more faith-based. I'm very excited on all those.
Excellent. That's great news. So I don't think we mentioned, but we should, that in the description there'll be a link for our GoFundMe campaign. We're really looking to, upgrade our equipment and do some other things that are necessary with our studio and stuff like that. So, no gift is too small. Again, Aaron and I are paying this out of our own pocket. Aaron definitely has a lot more sweat equity than I do in this. So he's not only, he sacrificed a lot for this. So it'd be great to see some of you chip in and kind of share and stand in the gap for us, as we stand in the gap for others, um, stand in the gap for us and definitely help us out. We do appreciate any donation. It's on GoFundMe. And if you could, if you have a group that you belong to, if you could share on the group, or if you have followers, if you have a professional page on Facebook or just your own personal, share it out there. And, don't beg. We're not begging. We're asking you just to, if you have a heart to see Standing Gaps continue, we'd appreciate the help. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah. And if you look at your screen and see the not perfect image of us, or if our audio sounds a little tinny, that's because we are using old equipment. I know that the laptop that I'm recording this on, I got in 2013. And Richie, how long did it take me to get booted up and get this set up? We were
A long time.
we were meeting at 10 o'clock my time,
Right.
and it wasn't until like almost 10:40 when I was able to give him the link.
Right.
And so please consider being a partner, supporting us. Uh, we chose GoFundMe because it's something that you guys recognize. It's something that's easy for you to do, and any little bit helps. Some of the things that we're thinking about getting with those funds is some new 4K webcams. We're looking to get some Rode pod mics, and we're also looking to get either a Mac Mini or a MacBook Pro to do the editing on, because that's really the thing that takes up a lot of our time is editing. And we can definitely benefit from faster, more modern computers. So please consider doing that. The link is in the description. And yeah.
So, boys and girls, we've come to the end of a great year of 2024 recap, and looking forward to 2025. And remember this, the best with a capital B is yet to come.